All right, everyone, welcome in. It's time for Full Court Press. It's $5 Tuesday. It's also, Robino, I don't know, do they still call it Super Tuesday? I always remember this being like the ESPN gimmick back in the day, which was like code for basically all the big games are tonight. Always a tremendous slate. The power conferences are back. We've got some stragglers here from Monday. We've got some daytime SWAC basketball, some daytime Southland. Once again, it takes an apocalyptic snowstorm to give us the schedule that we deserve on a daily basis, Rob Vino. But there's a lot to talk about today. How'd your Monday go? We got the parlay home, and I told you I was going to wear the Lemoyne hoodie, and I got it on.
And I know the chat appreciates the Lemoyne advice yesterday, the Lemoyne hoodie. Lemoyne made it very easy on half of our parlay. We scooted by with the second half. The Bethune-Cookman team total over 79.5, 80.5, I think is what we used here on the show. That got home. 82 points scored by Reggie Theus's team. That was the only play I had for clients yesterday as far as college basketball is concerned, Adam. I kind of kicked myself for mentioning the Ohio State team total on the show and then not using it. But that's okay. Sometimes you let one slide by when you're not too sure. But Ohio State did get there. Penn State closed that gap late. And I was texting you last night. The ending to that BYU-Arizona game was absolutely crazy. If Arizona had ever lost that game, that would have been one of the miracle finishes of all time, because if it could go wrong and if referees could help out, all of that happened within the last, 55 seconds of that game.
So, yeah, the reason I didn't respond to your text until this morning was because so I didn't have anything on the Arizona BYU game. I was just trying to stay up and watch. And I fell asleep, Rob, at the Kennard Davis hit a three. I think there was 2 minutes and 42 seconds left. Kennard Davis hit a three to cut it to 10. That was the last thing I saw. So with that, I see your text. I'm like, what happened here? And I woke up and rewatched the final 2.5 minutes this morning. Couldn't believe what I was witnessing. Crazy, man. If you got in early on BYU and had 2.5, that is a brutal roller coaster of emotion right there that ends with kind of almost like a bad beat when it was all said and done, right? Because you had the ball with a chance to win, and then you give up the foul, and Arizona still needs to go sink 2 free throws to cover that number. So crazy finish to that game. We've got a bunch of good games today. We have to start it off in the Big Ten. It is very rare, Rob, that we have a matchup like this late in the season. It's also even more rare that one is a double-digit underdog. So my buddy Corby, who does great work college basketball. I mean, if you guys watch this show, chances are you probably watch Corby's show. I don't even know if they're a competitor or not. I think you should watch both. That's what I think. I think you should go to theirs and watch theirs later because they do great work as well. But anyway, Corby posted this morning, so I'll give him a shout out. He said, since 2000, just 7 top 5 matchups have had a double-digit spread. All 7 have been won by the favorite. The favorite against the spread is 5-2. That's kind of crazy. There's only been 7 in over 25 years that have had a double-digit spread. That's what we're looking at tonight in Ann Arbor, Rob. Nebraska has not lost. Is there any way the Cornhuskers keep their unbeaten season going tonight?
Well, there's always a way, right? And especially the way that they're playing at this point in time. I guess what's even more rare is that Nebraska is one of the top 5 teams involved in a game like this. Who would have thought? But it's where we're at. And you and I got a chance on Saturday with Kelly, I think, to talk about both of these teams. Nebraska went to Minnesota. And I think my feeling at the time was the way Nebraska's been on the road, and I go back and use the example of the Indiana game where they were at Indiana, got down 16 in the second half, came back and won. They did it again against Minnesota on Saturday. Fred Hoiberg had a little bit to say about it. It basically just said in the second half, we've done a really good job of coming out of the locker room. Championship teams respond the right way, and that's exactly what they did. once again on Saturday to win that game. And going away, Adam, like they won that Indiana game going away that day. They won this game going away. They're 4-0 on the Big Ten road so far this season. So point spread wise, when you look at the way we have to look at it from a sports betting perspective, I think we've talked within the last 7-10 days about how Michigan's still overvalued. Michigan inside the league has lost 6 straight games to the spread. They covered against USC, and since then, not a single victory if you bet on Michigan, unless you're playing a money line because they're winning games, but they're not covering. They're overvalued in the amount of points they're going to score each and every game. Their team total in Big Ten play is now 7-0 to the under, not one single over from Michigan after all those points scored. So again, this is a little bit repetitive, but needs to be said here today because of the matchup that the odds makers had to climb the Michigan power rating so high, had to climb their total rating so high that now that we've hit conference play, it can't come down fast enough. This game, to me, very simply put, in fundamental matchups on the floor, their best against your best comes down to tempo. Michigan's the fastest paced team in the league. Nebraska's the slowest. They both do what they do offensively extremely well. But I want to give you a little something from Dusty May because I love the quotes from these coaches, especially ones that I can put a little stock into. Some just, rehash old coach speak. But Dusty May, pretty honest guy since the beginning of the year. He was talking about how Michigan has now faced opponents in recent games that are excessively trying to slow the game down. Dusty May says it's because of our spurt ability. We're seeing it every game now. We're seeing a lot of pass, and late clock action. It's what Nebraska is going to try to do. It's also a reason why Michigan team totals have gone to the under, not as many possessions. But Dusty May and company are going to try and speed this Nebraska team up tonight. Nebraska is going to try and go on the road and slow Michigan down. A couple of things here really quick. I think Nebraska's ball handling is probably good enough to not get caught up in an up and down. In other words, Michigan won't be able to get steals, turn the tide, so to speak, where speed of the game gets going. I think Nebraska can handle that. What I don't know if they can handle is if they get down by a big number at halftime, like they've done in a couple of Big Ten games against this team, and then find their way back. I think that's going to be the probable issue here. There's been a couple of problems with Michigan rebounding late. Dusty May addressed that lately, I should say, in recent games. But they've got so much height, and he still thinks they're an elite rebounding team. So there's not a lot to separate these two. I think, again, I'll point out, and this goes both ways, right? I point out all the time that RinkMass and Nebraska has the ability to pull opposing bigs away from the rim defensively because they can shoot threes. Michigan also can do that to you. So this is such an interesting matchup, Adam. Again, the one thing I found that I think will be a decisive factor is, can Michigan push this game the way they want to push it tempo-wise for more than half the game? Get that spurt that Dusty May's talking about. Remember the beginning of the year when he said to everybody who would listen, if we're making shots, we're impossible to stop. And that was the way it was in non-conference. They're still winning games, but like we've said a few times, they win by double digits. They don't cover. Here they have to win again by basically 11 points. Nebraska's shown us every reason to believe they can hang within this number. If it's me, and I haven't played this game as of yet, but I would say I would look a little more toward the under in this contest. Money's pushed it to the over to start the day, right? 153.5 up to 156.5. I would almost tend to push back at that a little bit. Again, believing that Nebraska's ball handling can be good enough to not get caught up for an entire 40 minutes of Greyhound pace here. So maybe a little look toward the under. And if it's side right now, you have to absolutely, just from a betting perspective, look toward the Nebraska angle here. That's the way I would see it, at least.
Yeah, there's a really good conversation going on in the chat about this game. So I'll bring up a couple of points the chat's going to make. So, Sean brings up Nebraska has no size, and that is there's an element of truth to that I think even maybe gets magnified by the fact that Braden Frazier may be out for this game. So Frazier did not play against Minnesota, and he is what would be considered some of the size for Nebraska, right? 6'7" forward, also a guy that shoots 53.7% from the field, 12.2 points per game. I think you could make a case to be like, man, like Nebraska really needs to play almost I don't know if they need to play a perfect game, Rob, but they need to shoot it like insane, I think, to win this game. And so taking Frager out of the lineup is going to be tough for Nebraska to, I think, win without having him. I know they have other options, but still, I think that hurts. Now, you can look at the size argument and say, well, that's not like an overly valid argument against Michigan because some of the teams they've struggled with don't have sides, right? TCU comes to mind where they just have these guards that are going to like get up on you defensively and cause trouble. And TCU had that game. Wake Forest did something similar. Granted, those are back in November. You go back to the one game Michigan lost, which was the Wisconsin game. Wisconsin went 15 for 33 from three in that game. Nebraska absolutely can do that. Like, I'll go as far as to say if Nebraska comes out and hits 15 threes tonight, they probably win. Like, they probably win this game. What makes it difficult to bet this game is there's just so many different outcomes based on like how volatile the 3-point shot is, right? Because like Nebraska does a pretty good job defensively in the paint, which is good against Michigan, but Michigan can still shoot the basketball. So if Michigan's just knocking down shots, this could get out of hand quickly. If Nebraska pulls a Wisconsin, goes 15 for 30-ish from three, how are they not in this game? They're probably in this game, Rob, right? Like, so you're talking about a spread of 11, 10.5, 11. I think they're probably right in it if they have that kind of shooting night, which we know Nebraska is very capable of. So this is a tough game to bet. I lean toward Nebraska. I know I'm probably not getting the right number because it's like, Michigan probably deserves to be favored as much as they are. But with the other thing is too, like, I feel like Rick Mast and the way he plays and sort of keeps this offense composed, like, do you really want to bet against that? Do you really want to lay 10.5 against that? I lean Nebraska here too, Rob.
Yeah, they're just battle tested at this point in time. But the Frager point is a big deal, Adam, because he had scored 20 plus in the two games previous to Minnesota. They got away with his absence against Minnesota. Can you get away without having all of your, and I'm talking from an outright win perspective, not plus 11 here, but can you get away with not having him and walk into this building and win? And I also think what's important to note here is, it's weird to say, but you're Nebraska, you're walking into Michigan's building and you have the bullseye on your chest. And Michigan is very, very aware of what's going on with Nebraska. So if Dusty May can rile up the troops, they should win this game. Whether or not they can win it by 11, are they still overvalued? I think we're going to find out a little bit about that tonight, but they've certainly been overpriced in conference. You have not made, in fact, you might as well just take your money and throw it out the window if you've been betting Michigan in league play. And the other side, you just keep going back to the window and picking up. So I think under 2, Adam, just something about this game at 156.5, because Hoiberg is a settling force at point guard. At Price Sandfort, the ex-Iowa player, very, very good 3-point shooter, experience. So Nebraska's got the components to kind of, be unfazed here.
Yeah, I don't hate taking some shot with the Nebraska money line. And just like, obviously you're probably not going to play a full unit on that if you want action in this game, because the just how crazy the outcomes could be based on the 3-point shot falling or not, I feel like is almost worth, like, you want to throw a few bucks on Nebraska money line, go for it, because I feel like there's worse bets for the price. There's worse bets that you can make. Going to be a tremendous watch either way. And again, I don't think anyone, if Michigan comes out and wins by 20, like, no one is surprised. And if you subscribe to like history repeating itself, 7 times this has happened since 2000. The double-digit underdog has not won a single one of them. and the favorite has covered 5 out of 7. So I think you can make cases both ways, probably why I'll just be watching it. Rob Vino, we got anniversaries in the super chat now. Garth Drake, member for 1 month. I didn't know that. I've never seen this program do that before. That's awesome. So shout out to Garth. He comes in and brings it every day in the chat. We very much appreciate that. We appreciate all you guys. Really, I see a lot of the same people every day. McKinnis just texted me, said he's watching the show, told me to change the banner at the bottom of the screen. So we appreciate him for that as well. It should be now showing our package or one of the packages. I don't have my glasses on. I can't read that. I can't read that.
Was there a hockey promo going on down there?
Yeah, you never know, because I think other people use the studio. So really, instead of like rehashing the Lemoyne game with you for 10 minutes before we get on the show, I should probably be like adjusting the banners, but this is what happens. Garth, this is an interesting game. Garth leans Arkansas. I lean Arkansas too. And it's really like, this will go back to our conversation on last call the last couple weeks, where Arkansas keeps coming up. I keep talking about how I like them, and then they fail to cover the number, which is what they did over the weekend against LSU. Granted, if you go back to the middle of the week last week, they had arguably not arguably, it was the win of their season, destroying Vanderbilt. There's a very stark comparison, Arkansas home, Arkansas on the road, that we've outlined on pretty much anyone that talks college basketball has probably outlined at this point. It's been going on for years. So Rob Vino, now you've got Arkansas on the road against an Oklahoma team that, man, like I feel like they want to pack up and go home for the season after the weekend, getting daggered by your Missouri Tigers at the buzzer, down 2 or had a 2-point lead, and Mizzou nails a 3 to win the game to, I believe, hand Oklahoma their 6th straight loss. So now they're at home, Arkansas road. Do you have any faith in the Razorbacks here, or do you think the Sooners snap this losing streak?
No, Arkansas road. And again, these teams are not Oklahoma, but lose by 22 to Auburn on the road, lose by 14 to Georgia on the road. Oklahoma's probably comparable in talent to Georgia, and pace and style and all of those things. It was an absolute heartbreaker for Oklahoma on Saturday in overtime against Missouri. Like you say, Adam, they complete, I believe Nigel Pack hits a 3, and then they go to the line and they take a 2-point lead. And of all people, Mark Mitchell just comes storming down the court and chucks up a left-handed 3, 27% shooter, not necessarily his forte. And from the time it left his hand, it was probably never in doubt that ball was going in. Loss for Oklahoma. You could see the look on Porter Moser's face. You could see the look on Oklahoma's face. So to your comment about they probably just feel like packing up their bags and leaving, maybe so. But I would consider this more a desperation spot for Oklahoma. Listen, they can still score. They're still a pretty talented team. They're still more than capable at home. And you're playing a team that just has not responded on the road. Game's going to get up and down. So obviously somebody like me wants to look immediately at the total. The total is priced pretty high in this game. Let's go ahead and get a current while we're talking about it. 166 or 166.5 as we speak. Probably in a good vicinity here. Arkansas's holding at 2.5. I see a couple of straight 3s out there. I would tend to think that this is Oklahoma's season in this particular, and you should actually, I should never say that in college basketball, because the tournament, the SEC tournament, would be their season. But if you're going to have a chance to make the NCAA tournament at the end of the year, then you have to have a high enough seeding inside the conference to be able to pull off 2-3 wins in the tourney to get yourself invited. Right now, they're an NIT team at this point in time. So wins are a definite must here. I just have a feeling that Oklahoma will do the right thing here tonight and win this game. But rather than take my shot there, I would rather take my chance with this game total, which again is 166.5. I just, when Arkansas has gone on the road, they've given up 90 both times. So Arkansas probably good for 85. The other side probably close to 85. Adds up mathematically to being an over. That's the way I would look at it. If I wish I had a little bit more faith in Oklahoma to just regroup the way I think they're supposed to here and play this as a desperate spot. Because if they did, this is just typical college basketball situational 101. Oklahoma should win based on spot. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, Rob, this is an insane year for freshmen in college basketball. I don't remember having this. I mean, in another year, Rob, Darius Acuff is getting all the attention, right? Like there are years where he would be getting so much attention, and it's almost like he's become somewhat of an afterthought because of just like Peterson and Boozer and DeBansta. And it's like Acuff, 20.2 points per game. Big reason why when Brian Power and I went to the Arkansas-Michigan State game earlier this year, we left East Lansing. And even though Arkansas lost that game, we left saying, man, like this Arkansas team is the team that we're going to want in February, in March, when Coach Calipari does what he does and brings his teams along and has them playing their best basketball at that time. I don't think they're quite there yet. I think they absolutely could get there. So you talked about the defense, like Arkansas does, like, I feel like they start just watching at times, defense gets a little lax. And then even the offensive possessions, like the Michigan State game, I'll go back to that game because there was a couple of possessions that were just straight up not good possessions down the stretch in that game that ultimately cost them the game, losing a 3-point game. On the road this year, I just think on the road it's easier to like get distracted, get caught up in the opposing crowd, make a mistake. You talk about the loss at Georgia. Georgia had a really good shooting day from three, but still a lot of those threes were open. A lot of it was like, just kind of watching on defense and giving up the open shot that allowed Georgia to score 90 points and then just getting run out of the building by Auburn. So like, to me, like I was, just to go back to the original post, Garth, I was so close this morning to clicking that 2.5 in as my first play today, because I think Arkansas is so much better than this Oklahoma team. I think if they execute their offense, they score at will here, which maybe speaks to Rob's, sort of talking about the over. But man, defensively, the lapses that have occurred on the road are a little bit concerning. Makes me think Oklahoma could score some points as well. And Rob, I have a tough time betting against a home team that's lost 6 games in a row. It's like, is this like the spot where they just band together and finally get that win? And would you be that surprised if it comes at the expense of Arkansas, who's always been worse on the road than they are at home? Those are the thoughts kind of going through my head here. So I do lean toward the over. It is a big number. I lean toward the over. Man, I want to take Arkansas so bad. If that shot didn't go in, if that Missouri shot did not go in, I would have already played Arkansas in this game. I would have already played it. I still like the Razorbacks. I'm very high on this team, and I'm going to continue to watch this Arkansas team because Coach Calipari, this is you give him a guy like Acuff and a team like this is the type of team he's going to win with in March. So, like, I'm still high on the Razorbacks. I just don't know if I can play him here.
Yeah, it's not quite. It's a little Derrick Rose-esque, right? Derrick Rose with Memphis, with Cal. Acuff's highlight package on Saturday was insane. The 31 that he scored in that game, just to reemphasize your point about so many good freshmen across the country. We'll see. Oklahoma, for what it's worth, I just want to make this final point. 5 of their last 6 games have totaled 166 or better. That's right where the number sits right now. Arkansas, obviously, the 2 road games they've played, I think a 164 and a one even higher than that in the 170. So potential overplay here. We'll see, and Oklahoma could react the exact opposite, Adam. They could go home and just lay an egg here. So it's a difficult game to bet, but I don't think it's a difficult game to bet from a total standpoint.
I love this comment because I think it's like a low key, like troll a little bit, but it's also hilarious. And he said, here's 1% of a $200 bankroll because it's just 1 unit. If that was referring to, me explaining the difference between 4 and 5 yesterday, that's really funny. Hugh, Richard, Bradshaw. Either way, if you want us to talk one of your games, drop it in there. Let us know. I'll grab that. But that I don't know. That made me laugh. For 5% of that $200 bankroll, you could get any play on the site today, Rob, because it's $5 Tuesday. Right. So great day. Listen, if you do play a smaller bankroll, and obviously you have to weigh in the cost of each pick when you're dealing with if you play a smaller bankroll, it's the cost per pick is more of a something you have to consider. Great way to try that out. $5 Tuesday. Every play on the site essentially is up for $5, and then you've got Rob and I doing a 3-day all access. Every college basketball play we make over the course of 3 days. That's probably the way to go from a cost standpoint, because with how many you play, and with the volume I'm going to have probably on a day like this or tomorrow or Thursday or basically any day of the week now with 365 Division I college basketball teams participating in the sport, the per play cost is going to be very low. So 2 options today, $5 Tuesday, and then the double the – Rob, help me out. What's the name of it again?
It's double the firepower, I think. College basketball, double the firepower. And just to Hugh Richardson, Bradshaw's point there very quickly, what he just laid out there, Adam, aside from being somewhat funny, it really does outline the discipline and money management that you have to play with if you're going to do this every single day of your life. You know, a lot of people want to just come in, make $600 on a $10 parlay, et cetera, and go broke really quick. But for those who have been in this thing for a long, long time, they're not playing huge amounts of their bankroll on individual games. So that actually was informative and funny at the same time. Thanks for that comment.
Yeah, it's a great comment. Like I said, if you want a certain game, drop it in there. I will do my best to get it in. Sometimes the non-starred stuff gets lost because we have so many comments, but I'll keep an eye out for it. Paul Powell coming through big. Thank you, Paul, for the donation to the show. He somehow got this to show up in Missouri colors. I think that's just what the donation of that range shows up as, but that's awesome too. We've got Missouri Tigers colors on the screen. He wants to talk Missouri, Alabama. He likes the Tigers on the money line. +5. I can't read that. What is the current number for this game right now, Robino? Missouri, Alabama. We're staying in the SEC. 10. Oh, okay. He's saying first half and full game, I think. Because this is, I was going to say, we are up to a 10-point, some places even 11 tonight. Bama at home against Mizzou. Vino, that Missouri, one thing they have done, they play up. They play up to their competition. They play down to their competition. So they might have at home allowed Oklahoma to cover and pretty much win that game, if not for a 3 at the buzzer from like 40 feet or wherever Mitchell pulled up and hit that from. Mm-hmm. But now they go on the road to play Bama. Is this the dichotomy here? You know, Missouri, they've played up all year. They beat Florida. They win as a dog. Do you like them as a double-digit underdog here?
Well, let's just speak from situational standpoint first, right? Situational is kind of that double combo where Alabama's off an absolute miserable shooting performance from 3. They go 6 of 26, shoot 23%, and lose on their home floor to Tennessee the other day. Now you get a second shot at home. You should, in college basketball, you expect a good team like this to bounce back. Missouri comes off the humongous, like we said 5 times now, 3-pointer by Mitchell at the buzzer. And that's almost, with the travel spot now, it's almost a letdown. So you kind of get that combination. You know what I mean? One team, the home team, eager to get back out there again. The other side, kind of still, I don't want to say they're still celebrating the win, but they're off of that huge win and now on the road. That combination generally speaks to a situational play on the home team, which would be Alabama. This Charles Bediako thing has become a really big deal. Played Saturday. I think there's a court injunction that's going to be decided this morning, 10 o'clock Central Time, whether or not he can play or not. He was somewhat effective for Alabama in that game on Saturday, despite the loss. And I know that Nate Oates is looking for hustle type players, which he referred to Bediako is doing very well on Saturday. Nate Oates has been a little bit concerned with his team's rebounding and defense this year, rightfully so. But, man, they can score. And Missouri's going to have to score. It's another battle of tempo. We just talked about one with Michigan, Nebraska. Alabama is by far and away in league play the fastest paced team. I think like 2+ possessions per game right now. And Mizzou is dead last. Mizzou wants to walk it up. Mizzou wants to, kind of take things more pedestrian. And I don't know that they're going to be able to do that in this particular contest against what's probably going to be a fired up Alabama team. It's a lot of points. I don't know that the Missouri defense is exactly built the way you stop Alabama. In other words, I don't think they can crush Alabama on the boards, which is something if you're a good rebounding team, then Alabama generally will lose that battle significantly. They lost it significantly to Tennessee the other day. If in fact you have a pressure style group that can get after the ball as it's being brought up by Bama, you can get deflections, you can get steals, then you're effective against Bama. They don't turn it over at all. So you have to have that kind of group. Missouri doesn't have it. They don't force a lot of turnovers. There's some things in their style of defense that just don't add up to success against a style of Alabama. So I think it's kind of a tough matchup for Mizzou. I think the situation's tough for Mizzou. Do I want to lay 10.5 to find out? That's always the great equalizer, right? But I do think Alabama probably comes out fired up here for this game, and we'll know, I don't know, an hour, 2 hours, whether or not they're going to have an extra body on the floor in Bediako.
Yeah, I want to go back to that Alabama game from Saturday for a minute because I think it's worth pointing out that Tennessee is the perfect, I'm actually mad at myself for missing this because Tennessee is the perfect team to beat Alabama, right? Like what you need to beat Alabama, to beat this team, to go into Tuscaloosa and beat this team is what Tennessee is. An elite rebounding team, right? Like Tennessee is a fantastic, they're one of the best rebounding teams in the country, and they go out and they beat Bama on the boards 36-28 in that game. You also need to probably not let Bama torch you from three. Bama 6 for 26 in that game against Tennessee. So, in hindsight, I'm mad at myself for missing that because I've gotten to see Tennessee play in person this year. We talk Tennessee basketball a lot, and I as that game was going, I was like, man, this is just the matchup you want the Vols in, catching points. It was the perfect situation. So for me, just based on the fact that I don't like being super reactive, and Missouri is not that nearly as ideal of a matchup going against Bama as Tennessee was, I can't take the dog. But that's more for just me, the way I think personally. It's I almost look at that and say, you missed your chance. You had your chance to do it on Saturday. I do think there's some merit to Missouri getting up for games like this, though. And that's where I'm going to probably sort of just duck out of this one and move on to another game, not make a case for laying 11, because we've now seen it multiple times this season. Missouri, against the big teams on their schedule, they always seems like they bring their best effort. So do you want to lay 11 against them? To me, I don't really want to do that either. So I know the original post kind of wanted to side with the dog. I do think the number is definitely big. Maybe it's big for a reason. I guess we'll find out. I don't have much there on that one, Rob Vino.
Yeah, like I say, I agree totally. Laying out the matchup, Mizzou's defense just isn't exactly what stops Alabama. And then, to my surprise, Adam, when I was looking at this game last night, Alabama owns the number 1 2-point field goal percentage defense, the effective field goal percentage defense in that league. And they're number 2 defending the twos. And Mizzou is not a great shooting 3-point team by any stretch.
Right.
And in fact, when they go on the road, they're 31%. So if Jacob Cruz and those guys and Stone, they're not nailing threes, which they're not known to do, especially on the road this season in conference play, then this could get out of hand for them quite quickly. And something else I'll just point out here, like I said about Nebraska, where I thought that they have enough point guard leadership that they have enough veteran experience on the floor to maybe stay calm and keep the game somewhat the way they want to play it. I think Missouri has shown at times that they can get caught up in pace. And when you get caught up in pace with Alabama, you could get run out of the gym quickly. What was the word Dusty May used? Spurt ability. Bama has it. They can certainly shoot it. So I just don't like the matchup for Mizzou from a fundamental standpoint.
Yeah, and going back, there was I don't remember who it was, but someone in the chat asked about letdown. Like, yeah, like Missouri winning in that fashion certainly probably created a bit of a letdown spot here for them on the road. Yeah, will be interesting to see. Will be interesting to see how that one plays out. Joseph, he says, Trig, I can't find your $5 pick. That's because there isn't one yet. I have not bet anything yet. This is the type of day, Rob, where if I wanted to, I could probably have bet 7 things already. And I haven't because I'm finding myself maybe wanting to push back at the market a little bit more in certain spots. So I'm going to kind of let the dust settle over the next hour. I promise you, Joseph, I will have at least one play, probably more than one.
This post is great. He says, I'm in class right now, so I have this on mute. Can someone please respond to the chat? Shout out to you, Joseph, for listening to us during class time. That's fantastic. I'm glad that we had one available for you. That's great.
At least he went to class. That's good.
Yeah, that's true too.
That's good stuff. And yeah, we will. It'll be up probably an hour or two, but within an hour after the show, I'm gonna play. Like that's the thing. I'm probably gonna have 3 or 4 plays on a slate like this. If I decide on one within the next 23 minutes, I'll just give it out to you on air. I'm gonna go to Garth here because this is one I am considering, and I will see if Rob Vino can talk me either into or off of what I may do here. But I'm going to let Rob kick this off because Garth's question is team total related. He likes the George Washington team total under 78.5. Admittedly, Rob, that was not really the angle that was not the angle I was looking at in this game was an under. But if it's an over, it's probably St. Louis doing most of the scoring. So kick us off, for Garth. St. Louis, George Washington. Talk about the team total for me.
Yeah, I'll say this, Garth. I mean, it's kind of the angle I looked at last night. I really, and this is hard for me to say a lot of times, you hear over out of my mouth a ton, but I looked at this full game going under. 168 was the number I saw last night. I'm looking now, we see 167.5. It's come down about a half a point. But I think I predicated that on what I'm seeing out of St. Louis's defense against this conference. Not only are they spectacular offensively, I think I was texting with you the other night, Trig, and I said, you look at this team, they would probably finish second in the Big East to Connecticut, if not surpass Connecticut. St. Louis would. They would win the Mountain West, et cetera, et cetera. They're way too good for what this league has to offer. From that perspective, I truly think that their defense is a factor in this game, but I applied it more to full game total than team total. And I can't argue you off of GW under because my case is based on the way St. Louis has played defense. They would have to probably get to, my guess is probably 90, 94 or something to get this thing over. So that would put GW at about 74, which makes your number look pretty good, though the angle you're looking at. But I'm pretty much in line with you in thinking that this game's going to stay under. I think St. Louis at home, knowing GW is a big game, will come out defensively. And if they're up by a bunch at the end, this is interesting too, Adam, because I find here that Schertz hasn't been a guy to let off the gas pedal, which is interesting. Like if he's up by 22 with 2 minutes left, is he just going to – St. Louis probably keeps scoring, which makes the under dangerous. But I just think it's placed too high right now. There's been a couple of games. I was on the wrong side of one, a St. Louis full game over. I think it was 2 games back. I could probably try and go look it up now real quick. But I missed the over by about 1.5 points because the odds makers had it just high enough in the 160s. It was a high-scoring game, just wasn't good enough to get there. That's kind of the way I feel about this. Maybe something that lands in the 162, 163 range, and we're staring at 167.5 here. Can't argue you off, Garth, just giving you my ideas on the game last night where I thought full game total was worth a shot.
Man, I so badly want to make a case for George Washington here, but just St. Louis is a bit kind of what you were saying. I had a bunch of buddies go. I had a group of friends go to the St. Bonaventure game on Friday, and they left very disappointed. They left very early. They were at the bar by halftime. They were not happy about how. I mean, that was just as I don't know how much of that was this just being like a bad St. Bonaventure team, a worse team than people expected. But I mean, St. Louis, I don't think you can play a better first half than they played in that game. I think they were up. I know it was 37-13 at one point. It was something like 30 at halftime. I mean, it was just and that was in front of a packed house in only a national TV game. And that was as quick and efficient of a dissection. I mean, It was over before it even started. And that is my fear, like fading this team at home, how efficient their offense is that. Now, Garth, does that maybe help your team total under? Yeah, like if this is out of hand, I think if this gets out of hand, that helps your under for a team total because you're not going to have all sorts of extension at the end of the game. But like my gut says George Washington can be competitive here. I really like Rafael Castro. I feel like going off of memory, he had a good game against St. Louis and a good game against Avila last year. I bet quite a few GW games last year. I want to say the St. Louis one was one of them, and he had a good game. I could be thinking of George Mason. I can't remember off the top of my head. But, I mean, he is more athletic than Avila. He can absolutely score on him. They've got the interior, I think, to do some damage. The problem is, for me, the problem is how efficient is St. Louis's offense is going to be here, because if they do anything like they did to St. Bonaventure, they could be up 15 very quickly. And I just go back to kind of what you were saying maybe a couple weeks ago of maybe people not even realizing how good this St. Louis team is. And then I look and I'm like, do I want to poke the bear on the road, especially when it's now known that you can go zone on GW and really cause them issues. I don't know if St. Louis really has that in their bag, Rob, but teams have pretty much figured out that you can play a zone against GW and they are going to have a tough time scoring. So those are the types of things that I think have talked me off. But man, if this, I see pennies at 10, if this got back to 10.5, I don't know. I may be taking the points and just hoping that George Washington can be efficient enough on their on the offensive end, which I think they can be through Castro, to hang around in this game. Rob Bino, if you don't have anything to add there, I'm going to go to you to see if you want to start the parlay off.
I'm trying to make a decision as we speak. So I got a couple of games here. Don't know which one I want to release here as our half of the parlay. So I'll skip for a couple of minutes and then come back to it if we have another game.
We have time.
We have
time. I'm going to go to, there's a game we absolutely have to talk about. Couple people have already sort of brought this up in the chat, but we got to talk Miami of Ohio. They are still undefeated. This has been, I think, flexed to a 9 p.m. national TV start. I believe this is on ESPNU, 9 p.m. Eastern. Of course, I've had my opinions on UMASS and, the direction that program has gone since Frank Martin took over. I thought it would have been much better. I thought they would have been more competitive in the MAC. It's interesting because UMass does have the components of a team that I think should be a lot better in this league. We saw that a little bit on Friday. They won on the road and won at Buffalo. They're a capable team, Rob, and Miami of Ohio has been in some games recently with capable teams in this league. But man, I don't know if UMass can get enough stops here. And that's where my concern is Miami of Ohio spreads them out and suddenly they're scoring at will. UMass Miami of Ohio, this has got to be a sellout, right? 20-0, you're at home. Should be a great atmosphere. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you get a TV audience. I can just recall going to the first ever ESPN like flexed game at Belmont where they were on TV against Ohio U, and Belmont doesn't sell out. But that place was packed that night for the camera. So certainly Miami of Ohio with the situation they have going on here, undefeated season, whatnot. I laughed as soon as you said we have to talk about this game because it was one of the three I was looking to choose from. So why don't I just go ahead and use this as a parlay leg here? I don't believe whether they cover the number or not, sort of irrelevant to me in this game. But I just don't believe that UMass, with their style and the pace they want to play, which is third fastest so far in MAC competition, while Miami of Ohio is number one. I just don't believe that Massachusetts can hold Miami of Ohio under their team total here of 86.5. Miami O is so efficient offensively. And when you're going to get the opponent to go in that style with you, and a lot of my analysis on these totals, Adam, when I go team total, are simply matchup based, and they sound kind of the same, but it's a system that pretty much works. When you're betting totals over, you need opportunities. You need extra chances to score. And that's what UMass provides here for Miami O in this particular game because they want to go fast. It's what they do best. Frank Martin is hard-headed. Frank Martin's not going to change for Miami O. He's going to go in there and try and beat them. Kind of a man's man type of thing. But they are a team that turns it over. They're so turnover prone as well, UMass, that in this particular game, I just don't. Miami O's been getting this number on everybody. Really doesn't matter. And now to give them the style component that they prefer in an opponent, to give them a team that will cough the ball up where they can get cheaper points. I just don't see a reason why you wouldn't bet Miami's team total here. I actually thought it was going to be about 89.5, and I was going to have to get to 90, which I still might have even considered. But 86.5 to me just seems to be too low. For those who are interested, the other game I was looking at was the Michigan State team total over against Rutgers, who has just turned into a defensive nightmare. But the only reason why I give you Miami, Ohio here in this game instead is because MSU has Michigan on deck Friday. And I just don't know where their heads will be at against Rutgers. So give me for the parlay leg, Adam. Give me Miami of Ohio team total up and over 86.5 in this one.
I kind of love that, Rob. As you're talking, and I'm thinking like you just made a point about potential look ahead in a different game. Miami of Ohio's had a week to figure out UMass's defense, which shouldn't be that hard to figure out. This team, like the thing with UMass is they do have some individual skill. If they can make this into like a very like clunky type game, then they're going to have they could hang around and potentially cover that number. They really have to make this an ugly game though to do that, in my opinion. And I just don't think you can do that on the road against a Miami of Ohio team that is as good at spacing the floor as any team at this level in the country. Listen, you could talk me into, okay, well, you put them against Power 5 teams and it changes a little bit. Fine. But at the mid to low major level, there is no team better than Miami of Ohio at spacing you out, getting the shot that they want. That should be a nightmare for UMass. And then you talk about the home crowd behind you. We've talked about UMass and some of their issues on the road this year. They're going to be going into an environment that I don't think they've really seen, though there was a good turnout in Buffalo on Friday night for that game, which they did win. But let's not act like Buffalo and Miami of Ohio are even remotely close to the same thing. And then to talk, you talk about a look ahead spot. Well, there's no look ahead for Miami of Ohio because they're playing one of the worst teams in the league next time out, which I believe is a home game against Illinois or Northern Illinois, who's one of the worst teams in this league. So there's really no look ahead. So this should be a fully focused Miami team. Miami's not preparing for Northern Illinois. I'll tell you that much. They can win that game in their sleep. For the last week, they have been figuring out how to dissect UMass, and that's not that hard to do. We've seen other teams do it. So, yeah, I'm with you there. I like that. I didn't really want to lay the 10, but I think just asking them to get to 90, which they seem to do anyway, no matter who they're playing, makes a lot of sense. It's a good call.
Seemed for a minute like my dog liked to play too. He started going crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to find any reason to disagree with that, Rob. I think you got I think you have a good angle there. I'm gonna go back to the chat real quick because I guess I'm gonna spend the next few minutes deciding if I just want to fire Arkansas money line in there. So let's get to another game. Let's see. Let's go Kentucky Vandy because I kind of had some thoughts on this one too. So I'm going to keep looking through the chat and I'm going to think about this. But Rob, kick us off. Kentucky Vanderbilt. I don't know if I can see Kentucky winning another game here. The question is, can they cover or not?
Yeah, I was pretty bullish on Vandy on Saturday. They had come off of 3 straight losses. They got an opponent that they could handle, and they went to work right away off. Their offense had failed them for a couple of the 3 games in the 3-game losing streak. Their defense really failed them. It was one of those things. You're in the SEC. You're going to go through that type of streak. You're walking into these buildings with a 15-0 or a 16-0 resume. In that league, you're going to lose somewhere. And for Vandy, it had a domino effect. But on Saturday, they were right back to being you talk about St. Louis getting out of the gate quick against St. Bonnie, like 42-19 right off the bat. Vanderbilt was the same way on Saturday. Right out of the chute, you knew weren't going to have any trouble. I happened to have their team total in that game. It had been lowered by their standards, I would say lowered to like 81.5. Wound up getting there rather easily. I didn't have to sweat that one too much. And here against Kentucky, I just have a real problem with Kentucky, Adam, because the same exact problem keeps coming up with UK. I think 5 games into the season, we talked about, or maybe a little deeper, 6 or 7, but we talked about the quote from Mark Pope where he went crazy after the game saying that he'll fix this. There's too many people playing for their own name rather than the name on the jersey. He'll weed it out. We'll get it right. It was fine for a couple of games. Then it reared its ugly head again, and he went on another rant. And it just has never seemed to be right. Whatever the cohesion problems are with Kentucky, this mix, this team just hasn't worked yet. It's not to say it can't. The month of February does strange things to teams. I've seen, UConn with Kemba Walker be a lousy team and go on a 5-game Big East run and then go win a national title. It can happen. But I don't know that they're in a good spot right now to play Vanderbilt, which is so good offensively. Too many weapons. I know that Mark Byington had said something that we had said here on the show, that they were a little bit depth shy during that 3-game losing streak because of Frankie Collins' injury. But they seem to overcome. And now they get back home to Memorial Gym. I thought the number was a little light at 6.5. There are some outlets that have gone to 7 now, and I see a 7.5 even. I could definitely endorse laying 6.5 if you could still find it. And I know there's a couple of very, very popular spots that still have that number hanging, 6.5. At some point in this game, Vanderbilt's offense is going to be too much for Kentucky to handle, in my opinion. Whether or not UK can get it up, never mind the comment about 6.5, because now I see red flashes all across the screen, almost 7.5, almost universally. Now you can still find some 7s, but I do agree with that. This total has been moved up to 159.5. Kentucky, not a lot on the defensive end so far this season. So for me, Adam, I would probably lean Vanderbilt at home in this price range. And I just want to take a look really quick here at what the current team total is bumped up to. It looks like 83.5 at this point. And I probably wouldn't play it over, but I think that's in the vicinity where they'll land, somewhere between 81 and 85. So my best advice here would be a small shot with Vanderbilt minus the number here against Kentucky.
Yeah, that's the way I was looking in this one. I wonder if that spike now is people thinking that Duke Miles will definitely play. I read something that he was like questionable for this game. Obviously, that would be notable, right? Because Frankie Collins hasn't played in a while. So, if you were to lose him, that's not ideal. But would it even really matter against Kentucky? Like, I look at this Kentucky 5-game win streak, and I'm just like, okay, the Mississippi schools at this point are just, you can just throw those out. They're awful. But both of those Mississippi teams, Ole Miss and Mississippi State, are atrocious. So you got 2 wins right there. LSU had really had no business winning that game. Took a Christian Laettner full court pass, come back to win that game. Tennessee, I still admittedly was watching like 6 other games during that window. That was a Saturday early tip. I still couldn't believe my eyes when I look up. I didn't have it on the main screen, and it's a final, and there's people fighting, and Kentucky won. I was like, wait a minute, what? How did that even happen? Right? Like they were, I believe that was a 18-point deficit in the first half. I hit with Texas against Kentucky last week. Texas loses that game, but I noted this on Saturday when I came back and played Texas again and had that right again, that like, man, Texas goes 2 for 18 from 3. If they shoot, and some of those were open shots, like if they shoot the ball even like a little bit better, Texas probably wins that game. So I think this is where it finally comes to an end for Kentucky. And I'm pretty confident in saying that if you can get 7 or better, that you're probably going to be okay there. You'll probably cash that ticket. The question now is, Rob, who do I like better, Vandy or Arkansas? That's what I'm sitting here trying to figure out. Because I'm going to use one of those 2 in the parlay. And you know what? I think I'm going to go Arkansas. I got Garth likes Arkansas. Colin Gregory likes Arkansas. We got Swizz here. He says, give me Arkansas -2.5. Bayou's over here saying Vandy. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to do it with Arkansas. That is going to be my parlay leg. I just think the matchup is too good for them. And I've been too pro Arkansas. I've been too pro Arkansas all year to like not sort of take them at this number in this spot. I think that team's only going to get better. We got like 3 minutes left. Should we try to, was there anything else that you just had a thought on today? Should we try to squeeze, like, was there anything else you wanted to bring up? There's a lot of games. I know I've got like a lot more work to do, but I didn't know if you had anything that you wanted to just kind of fire off here before we recap.
Yeah, just in rapid, because we have, 2 minutes here, rapid fire type deal. I thought the New Mexico UNLV game, last game on the board, is going to be, I think that it's going to be a very interesting game. I think UNLV as a home dog is live here, Adam. New Mexico, obviously not the same outside the pit, but even further than that, I just don't know that there's a ton of separation inside the MAC this year. We've noted plenty of times that it's not Richard Pitino's style team. However, Eric Olin has done a really good job with this New Mexico team. There's no question about it. But since UNLV's gotten healthy, the virus out of their locker room, they've been better too. And I think they match up pretty well with New Mexico. So +5 in this game to me, as with the home dogs, seem like a lot.
Yeah, that's actually one I'm looking at as well. That may actually make my client card. I wanted to see like what the betting did with that. I wanted to dig into it a little bit more, but just like UNLV kind of laid an egg over the weekend. I thought that they were potentially live in that spot against San Diego State, roughly the same size underdog that they were over the weekend. I think 4.5, 5, at least where it opened. That might be a signal that UNLV may take money at some point today, because I think that got as low as like 2.5, 3. They were always second best to the Aztecs in that game. That being said, I think New Mexico maybe a little bit more forgiving than San Diego State. I think they've played really well, but not so many of these games have been tough road environments. Not that Thomas and Mack is tough road environment. It's not. Got people of Vegas got to get out and support that team. There's too much stuff to do in Vegas, Rob, now. That's why they get 5,000 fans a game. They just don't get the fans like they used to, which sucks. But yeah, I lean toward the Rebs there too.
They got anything else for us under the wire here?
No, we're going to recap the parlay. I know there's some people that are thrilled. There's some people that are upset about it. I'm going to go Arkansas. I'm going to lay the 2.5. I think they match up extremely well with Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma might be dead and buried after that dagger from Missouri. And so I'll take the road Razorbacks -2.5 for my leg of the parlay. Rob Vino is going Miami, Ohio, team total over 86.5. That's your standard like +262 teamer, which will bring us close. After yesterday's win, we're -3.18 units on the parlay this year. So if we can hit this one tonight, we'll be back dangerously close to even. Maybe we'll fire a 3-teamer up, but I think we stick the 2-team route as long as we're cashing some of these, which we have the last couple of days. Check out our double the CBB Firepower package. It's all of my plays, all of Rob's plays for any 3-day span. And of course, it's $5 Tuesday at WagerTalk. We'll see you guys back here in the morning for more Full Court Press.